I have a very local vision of community foundations. So for me, everything is about context, and everything is about understanding the context we are living and working in. So perhaps you should take into account this important lesson. I think that no matter what I'm going to tell you about our experience, your experience is going to be very different. And the most important thing, I believe, is actually connecting to and understanding the context you are working with. You will not have the same experience with donors. You will not have the same experience with the community members. But I believe some ideas probably are still standing. If we are having this conversation, it's probably because community foundations are a powerful type of organization. So I hope there will be many things that you can learn from our experience here in Romania. So yeah.
¿Cómo y desde cuándo comenzó la fundación comunitaria de ustedes? ¿Y cuál fue ese motivo? O sea, ¿por qué los motivó a crear una fundación comunitaria?
So, it was almost 10 years ago that we started. I got an invitation to an initiative group that wanted to start the community foundation here in Sibiu. I had no idea what the community foundation was, and I had no experience working in an NGO. I was an entrepreneur an internet entrepreneur. I used to have a small business that I used to create websites and stuff like that. And because I had some experience in internet marketing, and I was even younger. I think I was like 28 back then when I got my invitation. So I got into this very interesting initiative group where we sit around in a circle. And as I said, we had no idea what those community foundations were all about, but we were all united by this feeling that we wanted to do something for our community. And maybe this may sound weird, but 10 years ago, even the word community was not very used. Everybody talks about communities right now, even online communities and offline communities and stuff like that. But 10 years ago in Romania, we did not have this word community in our vocabulary that we would use every day. So it was actually quite exciting to talk about doing something for our community, because in a way we were finding out that we actually have a community and we don't just live in a city together. So I think this was something that attracted me in the first place, because I was just out of college and starting my business, and I was very concentrated on building this business and stuff like that. But also, I think, like almost everybody all the time, very disappointed of the ways that our country was being led, that our country was being developed. So we felt like we wanted to do something new and something different, and something that would not be related so much to the political establishment, because just like it happens right now in Romania 10 years ago, later. So sometimes you invest into political change and you hope that maybe the new political environment will be better than the previous one, and then you just get disappointed all over and over again. So I think we had a feeling of this 10 years ago, that maybe politics is not the only way you could change a country, and that there might be another cleaner way, better way. And I think we looked at community foundations as this kind of a tool. Even though we didn't know what to do, it was like building something new that was not politically driven, that was not regarding the local administration in our town, that we could do ourselves with private money and local resources. So I think this was the idea. And another thing that attracted me to this was being together in a group, a very diverse type of group, with people from business, from NGO, from some of them from institutions, but we were very like-minded people. So I think this was very important. now maybe we're more used to, because the community foundations created a lot of environments and contexts where people of different experience now come together and do different stuff. But 10 years ago, it was very exciting to be just in a circle of people that were diverse, that had interesting ideas, that wanted to do something for their community. Now it doesn't sound so I don't know, exciting maybe anymore, because more of that happened. But I think for that moment, to be able to be in a group that can dream different solutions for the community and projects and stuff like that, as I said, it was very unclear what we were actually going to do, because in the beginning, a community foundation concept was very difficult to grasp for us. We wanted to just create solutions for our community. So our first ideas were, let's get our hands dirty and solve the problems of our community. That was the beginning, and that it was a pretty slow process until we understood what a community foundation is, and how a community foundation can help the community without really getting your hands dirty. And the process of understanding what local grant maker can be, and what an infrastructure organization can be, and how this type of organization can be can have a much larger impact than just a simple NGO that would just go around solving all sorts of problems. So I think this was a very nice, beautiful journey, and it was what attracted me to a community foundation, in a way that a community foundation represents a structural solution. It's not just a solution, but it's a solution that helps bring about other solutions. And I think I was very excited about this, multiplication of the efforts. So yeah, so once we understood, in the beginning, maybe many of us were a little bit disappointed, because, you know, action people want to get out and do stuff right away and solve those problems and see some visible change. So I think it was a little bit of a setback in the beginning, where people realized, oh, now what are we going to do? Are we going to raise money and give grants? And it sounded so complicated, you know? So it was like the change would be somewhere really far away after a lot of work and effort. And but I think it was this journey and this effort was really worth it. So I'm just thinking about these things as I'm talking, because I have this this type of thinking while talking. But it's really nice to remember of these moments. So yeah, that was the feeling of our first days in the community foundation as an initiative group.
¿Nos puedes dar un poquito de información sobre el contexto de Rumania, del país a nivel como general, para poder también ubicarnos en esa historia que nos estás contando, en medio de qué contexto de país se desarrolla?
Okay. So I was already beginning to draw a little bit about the context. Of course, 30 years ago, we just got out of communism. So we were for 40 years under communism, which had different kind of stages. But then in the last part of communism, it was really, really bad. So people were very poor, and the country imploded during the 80s. So this was a very traumatic change from the communism to capitalism, which happened in the 90s. It was also a period of unrest, and was pretty difficult until the economy was moving from communism to capitalism. There was a lot of corruption. The political environment was pretty bad. And then during 2000, we started to what we call in Romania transatlantic or Euro-Atlantic integration, which sounds a little bit funny now. which meant for Romania that we got into NATO, and then we got into the European Union. And so we are now 14 years in the European Union, and this was a pretty important move for us as a country because the living standards have really increased since then. The internal, the revenue of the state and everything, and the social environment in generally. The European Union is, at least related to the Romanian state, is a pretty progressive kind of state, and for us it is unfortunately still important to just try to keep in pace with what the European Union is doing, even though our own I don't know, democratic struggles are still there, and our political class is not really able to keep pace with the development in the western part of Europe. As I said, I believe this is important, that the Romanian people have been disappointed over and over again, especially maybe generations of young people, which try to put their hopes and dreams behind a certain political change. Maybe 30 years ago we had one, 10 years ago we had one, now we had another one. It was like waves of reforms, of trying to reform maybe the state, again, what is happening right now in Romania in the last 3 months, we have a large, useless political crisis. After 4 to 5 years of civic unrest and street protests and things like that, generally anti-corruption protests, we were hoping to change a little bit the political environment and create a new political class, but this has failed again. So this was in a way not good for us as a civil society, because there was a lot of energy that was put into political change, and part of this energy was drained out of the civic society. And I think right now probably people are going to realize again how important having a civil society is, and that we should not, I mean, there are many people from the civic society that now are in these new political parties. Some of them are in the parliament, some of them are in local councils and stuff like that, which is good in a way, because there's sort of a new political class. But in another way, the civic society in Romania is a little bit drained, I think. And in a way, us as a community foundation at the local level in a city like Sibiu, which is a 200,000 inhabitants city, we are in a way responsible of the health of the civic society, because we are now maybe the largest NGO in Sibiu, and as I said, as an infrastructure organization, we are in a way in charge and responsible of the health of the local civic environment. Not necessarily because this is what the community foundation does, but because we were a successful organization and a successful infrastructure organization. In a way, we had to keep this role as well. So yeah, I could talk a lot about, I'm pretty passionate about this kind of social changes and the way we look at them, at the role of civil society. So yeah, I would stop it.
Si nos puedes compartir hoy en día cómo está conformado el equipo de trabajo que está en el día a día de la Fundación Territorial de ustedes, y cuánto se demoraron entre esa historia que tú decías, arrancamos un grupo de personas diversas, interesadas en hacer algo, pero desde ese momento, cuánto se demoran en constituir el grupo que ya hoy está consolidado al frente de la Fundación.
Okay, so right now we In this moment, we are 6 members of the team. We used to be 7, so right now we also need to recruit another member of the team. So it is I, the executive director, which have been from, I think I'm the only person that was here since the beginning. Since then, it was a pretty difficult road to get here, and I do believe that building the team and the structure then and the business model then can support a large team like this was probably the biggest challenge we had, because it's really difficult to go from a 2-member team to a 3-member team, and from a 3-member team to a 4-member team, and each step of the way feels really, really difficult. Maybe at one point, probably it's not like right now, you know, it's 6 or 7, maybe it's not so important anymore. But it was important to find a group of person that we have the same values. So I, as the executive director, I'm in charge of course, leading the team of fundraising mostly. Of course, about I don't know, about the story of what we do, about representing the organization in the public space. Then there is my colleague Anna, which unfortunately cannot be here because she got sick this week. She's sort of a combination of a program director and development director. She's also like my second in command. We share many of the decisions together, and many of the important things we do, we try to share them. So it was very important. Anna also, when I hired her, she was in her second or third year in college, and I think it was very important for me the way that she managed to step up in the organization and be this second in command she is right now. She does a lot of very good work also in team management and fundraising, and especially since what I call fundraising, it's many of the times for us it's more of a relationship management process. As I said, right now, after all these years, we're like a big fish in a small bowl, where we are a well-known brand and organization in Sibiu, and we have already a portfolio of corporate donors that we work with. So it's not as much fundraising as it maybe used to be, like you go to a company and try to ask for some money, but it's more like you already have this relationship. It's more about managing the relationship than classical fundraising. And me and Anna do a lot of this stuff. Then there is Angela, which is our communication manager. She really does a lot of work because unfortunately we have many programs and many tasks to do on in marketing and communications, especially on our marathon, our largest program and event. It's the Sibiu International Marathon, which is probably the largest running fundraising event in Romania. And that's like a really huge program where we actually need an entire marketing and communications team. So for now, we only have Angie, and we also have some collaborations, but we really need to extend this into a department, at least for the marathon. But for the most of the year, Angie also, she communicates on different programs. She communicates for the organizations and organization as a whole. Then we have Gabriela, which has different roles right now. She is our staff photographer. Maybe it sounds a little bit weird for you that we have a hired photographer, but it's actually quite you know, even as an employer, I had this strategy of hiring people using the resource-based strategy. So it was not the way that I try to build my team was not necessarily needs-based. So, I need this position, I try to fill it, but rather I look in my circle, in my community, and I see what kind of people we have around, and then try to understand how I could use some of those people in the community for the good of my organization. Okay, so it may be a little strange that we have a photographer on our payroll, but actually Gabriela was really important for our organization. And for instance, photography has become a very important tool for us. And because we had all these great photographs of our programs and the programs that we give money to, we managed then to create a very good brand around the community foundation and the Sibiu International Marathon and the funds and other projects that we do. And those photographs have really had an important role in our growth. Also, as Gabi became more and more integrated in our team, because she went on and visited all those projects, she became very very knowledgeable about the kind of projects that we finance. So, for instance, in the last year, she has also had the role of the grant manager for 2 of the programs, and she did a really good job in this. And also, she does project management for some other parts of our activity. We have another person that works on administrative things, that deals with all the papers and the money and the payments and stuff like that. That's Christina. Then we have Diana, which she does a lot of technical stuff. She's a volunteering manager. So she manages all the volunteering in the marathon, where we have about 500 volunteers and other types of people working for us. So she manages this, and also she manages a lot of production stuff for the marathon, a lot of the technical teams that assemble the event. Diana was a volunteer in our organization when she was 14 years old. So in 2013, we had a program called Youth Bank. That was a program where we would give out small grants to young people. And Diana was in the first generation of our Youth Bank as a volunteer at 14. And then she remained as a volunteer in the marathon, in the organization. And about, I think, 3 years ago, she became an employee of the Community Foundation, and now she works full-time for us. And also now she has a company, and she also works for other events as well. Yeah, so I think this is about it. We used to have Lucia, that was our official grant manager, that would deal with all the grant related problems. And it's, as I said, as we are a very resource driven organization, of course we need to hire some more people right now, and we're trying to look around and better understand what kind of people we need and what kind of personality, and this is always something that's on the move.
Entonces, ¿cómo identifican ustedes las organizaciones o las iniciativas locales a quienes la Fundación Territorial entrega las donaciones? ¿Cómo es esa relación y cómo es el tema del maratón?
So we had our 10th edition right now in October, so we already are like 10 years old. It's been a really long time and a long road for us. So what, of course, you must understand that it's like we have two blocks. The marathon is like in a way a classical running event, but in another way, it's something a lot more complicated than a classical marathon, because it is a fundraising event, and it is a fundraising event that also beneath it has a capacity building component and a grant making component in a way. Okay, so the actual work that we do with the NGOs, with the projects that are in the marathon, is perhaps the most important part of our work as a community foundation. The organization of the marathon as an event is something we do on the sides in order to keep this going, okay? But we understand that our mission is mostly related to this work we do with the projects in the marathon, okay? So of course it is really important, our relationship with them. In the first year when we did our first marathon, as I said, I had little to no experience regarding the NGO sector in Sibiu, Romania. So I really had to learn a lot and understand what kind of projects there are here in Romania, in Sibiu. And it was a little bit difficult in the beginning. We had a call for projects, and it was hard for us to find projects to enlist in the marathon. But we just try to talk to a friend that knows a friend that knows another friend. And in the beginning it was difficult also because the NGOs had no trust, no faith that a fundraising event like this could happen. So they were very skeptical, but in a way they realized that they had nothing to lose to just enter a project in the marathon. And then as people trying to sign up, they realized, hey, this is like a really cool stuff. We should do this. And in the beginning, we only had 170 runners in the first edition. And that was considered a huge event, a huge success for everybody. So everybody was so excited about this event that had 170 runners. And afterwards, we managed to raise about less than, I think, $10,000 we raised in our first event, which was incredible. Everybody was, wow. And of course, 10 years after, we have 5,000 runners, and we raise about $200,000 in an event. So that's, I don't know, more than 20 times that. But I think it is important to understand how we went from this lack of trust in the beginning. People would not believe that somebody would pay money, that people would donate so that somebody would run a half marathon. That was really weird and strange for people 10 years ago. It is not anymore, of course. There's a lot of fundraising going around all over the country right now. And even though I'm sure we're not responsible for this, our marathon was definitely the first large running event, fundraising running event in Romania. And then a lot of more appeared in other cities where younger community foundations that came to us and saw the marathon, and then they went back home. And we have one in Timișoara, one in Galați that are almost identical to ours. And they really do a lot of great job. We were not the first fundraising event in Community Foundation. Our inspiration was from the Swimathon, which was an event that started in the UK, and some of the community foundations in Romania used it, and we took it as an inspiration and created this concept with running and not swimming, which is easier to scale because unfortunately swimming is a little bit difficult to scale, and running has almost infinite possibilities. So coming back to the NGOs, so in the beginning we just took all the projects, all the decent projects that wanted to get into the marathon because we were not well known. Then I think maybe in the second and third year we also we would accept everything that came to us. And then we realized that one of the projects that raised the most money in our first marathon, which was actually a half marathon back then, didn't manage to do such a good job with their money. So we realized that if we don't take a lot of care of these projects, then our reputation will have to suffer. So we realized that we had a pretty large responsibility regarding these projects. So as our brand became better and we started to have like more power, then we started to make a tougher selection of projects and organizations. So once NGOs from Sibiu realized it's a very good thing to actually be in the marathon, we made it harder and harder to get into the marathon in a way. But of course, the way we made it was that we just created rules and created all these conditions that you would have to check in order to be in the marathon. So we realized that this is a really great capacity building opportunity, actually. So, you know, if you want to be in this marathon, first and foremost, we must know that you spent the money you received the last time very well. So the marathon in itself became a grant making program. Even though we wouldn't give our own money, but the NGOs would come and raise their money, but we will still be the ones that would grant the money to them. Okay, so it's not a classical grant making program, but we are still giving grants and we are still monitoring the implementation of the projects, even though maybe not really that I don't know, we don't look at every penny of every cent of the dollars that they spend, but we must make sure that they do their job. And you know, I have this theory of maybe it's not such a grand theory, but it's this idea of closing feedback loops. And I think that the success of this type of marathon and the community foundation is the reason that is because we managed to close thousands and thousands of these trust feedback loops. Okay, so somebody signs up in the marathon and then they say, hey, I'm going to run 42 kilometers, and then they really run the 42 kilometers. So that's one of the feedback loops that closes. Then one person says, hey, if you run 42 kilometers, I'm going to donate $100 to your cause. And then the first person runs and the other one donates, and then the project gets implemented and all the feedback loops are closed. So if you multiply this by 1,000 and 5,000 and so, you get all these trust loops in the community that they almost hang in there like social capital, you know, and people know that they can trust each other a lot, and that's the great foundation for future collaboration and future work. So I believe this is a result that is even more important than the actual money and projects that we help implement. I hope you understand this nuance, that I think maybe building trust in communities is probably our deepest goal. Okay, it's not, sometimes it looks like our role is to raise money. Okay, but you know, I don't, who wants to raise money? It's money is just intermediary, it's just something we use. It's a very, very powerful instrument. I must say this very clear, that money is very important, and you can do a lot of money with money, not only because money can buy things, but also because for an organization like ours, money can be a very good leverage for people to actually do stuff in the community. So once you get a grant for a community foundation, if you're a small organization, you get a grant, you have to sign a contract. And that's quite different when you have to sign a contract and receive some money, even though the money maybe is quite little. it's very different from, you know, we're a bunch of volunteers and maybe we are going to do these projects, but maybe you're not going to do these projects, but maybe now we have some time, but maybe we don't have time. No, once you sign a grant contract, you know, you have to do these things. Okay. So I think you must understand this kind of leverage that the grant and money can give you as a founding organization. So yeah, back to the initial question. Our work with NGOs in the marathon has been really, really important, and is maybe the most powerful thing we do. Sometimes it's very invisible because people from the outside, they only see the flashing event and the crowds gathering and stuff like that. But we know that our most deepest work is working with these projects from the moment that somebody sends us an application of a project, which sometimes is really bad, and then we read it and we give them feedback, and then we invite them to our office and we talk about it, and we use our connections and our experience and our knowledge to help them build a better program. Okay, and in this process of negotiation, in a way, but of very careful negotiation, where these people really, really feel that they are being helped. They don't feel like there's this, I don't know, teacher that is trying to explain to them how things should be doing. But actually, it's a process where we try to understand what these people want to do, and just, it's more like coaching, you know. It's more like we try to understand what they want to do, and then ask them the right questions, and maybe give them a little bit of directions and ideas. And I think this is a very important job that the community foundation can do, and a very important part of what I feel that grant making should be in a community like ours. So it depends a lot of what type of organization you are. For instance, if you live in a 2 million inhabitant city and in your community foundation, maybe like it is here in Bucharest, maybe then you already have 200 NGOs that you can work with, and then you can just select the better projects and give them money. In a smaller city like Sibiu, we don't have so many NGOs, so we have to work with whatever we have here. So we just need to make them better and to help them give better results. And this also means a lot that usually there are two types of organizations that come in the marathon in the last 5 years. One type of organization is a more mature organization that maybe already did some fundraising. They already understand the marathon. They know how to raise their money. They just use the framework of the marathon. We just provide it to them. And they really need little more help than what the marathon already offers to them. And then you have the other part where we do a different type of work with either with the young organizations or with the informal initiative groups that they have no idea what an NGO is. They only know that they have a problem they want to solve. Maybe they are a group of parents that want to raise money for a playground for their children. This is a very it's a very general example. In a way, this happens a lot, for instance, with children playgrounds, I believe. But what is nice is that these kind of people, they are not NGO people. They just come from the community and they want to do something. And they don't understand many things. And then we just help them understand how they can use this marathon. And usually they have a lot of success. And that's some of them get promoted and they create an NGO maybe in a couple of years, and they start to do this constantly. Others, I don't know, they just come next year and fundraise for another event as a runner, or I don't know what. But yeah, I think this is important. So even our communication, when we have call of projects, we try not to use too much of this wooden language about NGOs, you know, apply with the projects here, but we try to communicate to normal people, like we're communicating, hey, do you have an idea of something you want to change? Come to the marathon with an idea and we'll help you raise some money for it. Okay.
¿Pueden las fundaciones territoriales involucrarse en los procesos de las iniciativas locales para que se vuelvan estas independientes y no únicamente derivar fondos de los donantes?
Cipriano, desde la experiencia de ustedes, ¿cómo lo han vivido? ¿Se involucran dentro de la organización local o no?
Yeah, I have a little bit of difficulty understanding the question, but it's only because maybe the misunderstanding is that relying on philanthropy would be like a bad thing, or no, it's like community foundations are built so that they rely on philanthropy. Philanthropy is one of the important pillars in what a community foundation is. So it's not, when we started 10 years ago, this was one of the preconceptions that we were fighting with, that philanthropy is something like you do out of mercy, and it's something that is bad, or it should be avoided, you know. And now nobody really has a problem with this. Of course, it's not comfortable and it's not easy to build a business model based on philanthropy, because unlike state funds or local funds from, I don't know, local institutions, you cannot necessarily rely, or it's very difficult to create a revenue stream for your organization that you can rely constantly on. And that is a really a big challenge, of course. But I think this is the challenge of building a community foundation, is realizing that you already have a lot of resources in your community. And one of the important concepts that I always talk about is about these locked resources that are in your community. Resources from businesses, resources from maybe rich individuals that they also want to make a change. I'm not sure how the social landscape is like in your country, but for instance, a lot of people that are richer right now in Romania, they are younger entrepreneurs that they also want to see a important change in the country. So they actually want to give a lot of money away. They want to see that their money is being used to changing the country. So it's not shame in either way, because people with a lot of money, they don't have the time to do something with their money. So they need other people like us to put the money into good use. And again, I'm not sure whether I understand the question. If you mean about getting involved in local projects, that would mean in a way having some revenues from the local authorities. We don't really get too much into that. In Romania right now, it's not that difficult to get money from local authorities for projects, but we are not a project-driven organization that we just go out to the town hall and say, hey, give us some money to do something. We're not that type of organization. So we don't really take money from the town hall, but we don't want to take money we don't want to take public money, because this is the sort of thing that we try to, in a way, it's a political statement for us not to take public money. Okay, we want to show that there are other resources, and maybe that those public money should be put into better use by the local authorities to, I don't know, build roads and schools and hospitals and stuff like that. And us as a civil society, as an NGO sector, I think we should not rely on public funding, because in a way that's why we are non-governmental organizations. If we use public money, then we're in a way just another type of institution. So we do have a lot of partnerships with all the major institutions in Sibiu. That's not the issue. We have a really good reputation with the local council, with the regional council, with the hospitals, the schools, the university, the museums. We have partnerships all over the spectrum. But I think one of the reasons we managed to create these partnerships is because we created a very good reputation. And it's very difficult for somebody to say no to the community foundation right now. And this reputation is our most important asset. So that's what you must understand, that you have to build this kind of reputation, and then, you know, relationships and funds, I think, will follow. People in Romania, especially maybe 10 years ago or more in the past, and especially the NGO people, always used to say there is no money. Nobody wants to give us any money. Romania is a poor country. We don't have any resources. Everything is so difficult. There's no escape. Politicians are corrupt. So we had this kind of atmosphere. And once you really get a grip of this locked resources idea, and you really think about it, and you think about what type of resources there are in the community, and that maybe they are just closed somewhere in a vault, and these resources, of course, we are looking for money, but you don't start necessarily with money. You know, maybe you start with getting people to run into a marathon, okay? But once you've unlocked this trust resource, okay, this maybe is a first level resource. I'm just giving it as an example. You know, in the beginning, there is no trust. So people don't believe that anything can be done. And then you have to unlock this first resource, which is trust. You know, come and run to this marathon and we'll show you that you can raise some little money for your project. It's not a great amount of money, but somebody will give you some money for the project. And then you unlock this trust resource, and this begins to increase. But what I wanted to say is that so one idea of this unlocked resources, that you have the human potential in your country. I'm sure however bad the situation may be, you will always have this human potential, okay? Which is not a philosophical idea. It's a very pragmatic idea. The human resource is there. People want to do stuff. People are educated. People can come together and they can create projects and they can volunteer. So if you don't have money, try to get people to volunteer. After you get some results from volunteering, then try to get some more money, and so on, you know, and show people the results of the work, and that will give you some more money. But look at these locked resources that maybe they are in some nice people in institutions, some nice people in business, some nice people in NGO. Bring them together and see how you can unlock the potential of your communities.